So I say to you, let's talk about types of writing. And you say to me, heck yeah, let's talk about types of writing. What types of essay writing do you want to talk about? Narrative, informative, creative, persuasive? What kind of persuasive writing do you want to talk about? Rogerian, pro-con, problem solution, Toolman, and so on. Or maybe you're like, types of essays, there's one type and it's got 5 paragraphs now and forever. Most likely what you go to directly is the structure. And that's good. Structure is good. Some of my favorite bridges are built with really rigid structures. The problem comes when we think of writing as just the structure. Because once you get locked into one rigid type of structure, you think, well, this is the bridge I make. I'm sorry that your river is the wrong size, but that's what I got. And that's why it's so important to learn the rules so that you can break the rules. And I know that sounds like I'm speaking in Zen riddles, but it's the truth. Writing boils down to basically one rule. Either it works or it doesn't. That's it. And that's important to remember. The rules that are constantly being thrown at us are based on what works. But that doesn't mean that's all you ever have to do. And if we go back to this idea that writing is a story, and writing is a promise to the reader, you're going to get something out of this. Take creative writing. Stories. Sometimes that's the most effective way to make your point, a persuasive point. Show it and let the reader decide for themselves what's right.
Consider fables and fairy tales. These are persuasive essays written in a way that somebody will listen to. Rather than just yelling at somebody, hey, be careful when you're out in the world, we give them stories so that they can figure it out on their own. But not even just things like that. Consider dystopian stories of any kind.
We're introduced to a character with whom we connect, who is at odds, who is rebelling against the society around them, and over the course of the story, we're going to be shown why they/we are right to fight back against the tyranny and the oppression of the society.
We give them a story and let them learn that it's best not to raise false alarms just to get attention. Or that perseverance will overcome arrogance and talent. Or whatever it is we're supposed to get out of Hansel and Gretel. I don't know, don't trust anybody. So let's take a minute and look at the overlap between creative writing and academic writing, and specifically in this first video, introductions. Because here's where we see things being set up, because the introductions do basically the same thing. They are designed to draw us in, to get our attention, establish the world in which this takes place, and where are we going with it. Now, typically that's going to follow the basic structure, but it's worth noting that both in a story and in an academic essay, they do the same thing. And the funny thing is we know this. We sense it innately. When a story starts, we know that it needs to begin with something that's going to draw us in and make us interested in what's happening and want to know what's going to take place next, and we get it. When it's time to write an academic essay, what do we start with? Well, we probably quote Gandhi, maybe Ben Franklin. Knowing that won't work. When it comes to academic writing, suddenly we are willing to accept a level of boring that we would never tolerate in our stories, in our books, in our movies. Not for a second. So when thinking about the introduction, think about those core elements, those pieces. Draw them in. What do they need to know before they can move forward? And where are you going with this? And notice with a creative story, they aren't going to state the thesis. They're going to set up the conditions for us to arrive at that conclusion. Now, maybe that's not something you're ready to do with your academic writing, but you can think in those terms. Because with writing, what you want to come back to is the essence of what you're trying to do, because your essay is telling a story. And your story is probably making a point. So when next time you're starting to work on a piece, whether it's a creative story or an essay, think in terms of what world you're trying to create, what journey you want to set up, how are you going to draw them in and get them thinking about it. When it's time to make your point, get creative. And when it's time to be creative, make your point.